Welcome to Yas Marina Circuit for the opening round of the new look Formula Regional Asian Championship certified by FIA. Getting ready to go. Slight delay here at Yas Marina due to the fact that there was an incident on track in a qualifying session prior. Only minor delay, about 15 minutes all up. We're back with the rebranded F3 Asian Championship, which is now in its 5th season. It's the 3rd time we've been to the Middle East. Of course, last year, due to global conditions, the championship contested all 15 races between Abu Dhabi and, of course, Dubai. We're on a 5-weekend back-to-back run. We start here at Yas Marina, of course, as you've seen from the calendar. The Dubai Autodrome next weekend, another 3 races a week later, another 3 races 11th to 13th of February, and then back here where it all began for the final 5 rounds, 3 half-hour races per round, and what fantastic action it's provided in past seasons. It might have a new name, but the cars, the tyres, and many of the teams are the same. There's a couple of drivers who have also competed in the past. One of them we see back in a race seat for the first time in 2 years. We'll get to that. He's one of our Masters entries and a former race winner. But it's a very, very talented field. A field of which, of course, as has been the tradition in past seasons, nearly 2/3 of the drivers in this field are less, or 17, or less, 16 years of age. So it's going to be an interesting run. Red Bull, Mercedes and the Ferrari junior driver entries are well represented. There's also names like Montoya and Leclerc, or as Arthur likes to be called, Arthur Leclerc. They are in the field this weekend, and one of those 2 drivers really did set the field alight during opening qualifying here yesterday. Sebastian Montoya, son, of course, of former F1 race winner Juan Pablo, 2-time Indy 500 champion, racing for the Mumbai Falcons Racing Limited operation, which has an association, of course, with Prema, as does the Abu Dhabi Racing by Prema operation. Sebastian yesterday really did set the field alight in the closing laps of qualifying, the first 15-minute session. Very nearly backed up in the second 15-minute qualifying session, but unfortunately for him, track limits have been well and truly enforced this time round. And second time round, the qualifying top spot was taken by Gabriel Menu, who'd been right in the mix, which is no real surprise when you think about the history that this championship has had with high-tech Grand Prix over past years. Of course, you go further back to when they first started the season, 2018 F3 Asian Championship. There was some fantastic racing. All of that, of course, was contested across Asia. Still 5 rounds, still 15 races. And back in that particular season, it was almost dominated by Jake Hughes for high-tech, that stage, drag and high-tech GP. Championship, though, taken out by Raoul Hyman, his teammate, who, by virtue of the fact that Jake Hughes only contested 3 of the 5 rounds, and every race he contested he won, Raoul Hyman would go on to take the championship by 2 points. He only won 1 race in the end, out of 15. Jake Hughes, of course, won 9 of those, but the championship came down to the fact that Jake Hughes wasn't able to attend the final event of the season, and that was a great 1-2 for high-tech. If we go down to the number of races that have been won in the Formula Regional Asian Championship over the last 4 seasons, 27 of those victories have gone to high-tech GP. 11 race wins in 2018, 13 in 2019, 3 in the 1920 season. So it's been a bit of a dry patch since then. But other teams have really stepped up. Of course, Black Arts go back a couple of seasons ago with Joey Alders. They took the championship, 6 wins for them, but 15 for Pinnacle Motorsport. 3 in 18, 6 in 1920, and 6 last year in 2021. And that was a fantastic season, of course. Pierre-Louis Chevet, in the end, he went on to take 6 victories, but missed the championship victory by virtue of the consistency of new Alfa Romeo F1 driver Guanyu Zhou. And isn't that, or hasn't that rather, been an amazing 12 months for the Chinese driver? Winning here, win the championship early last year, less than 12 months ago, and he will start his Formula One career in just a few weeks' time. And that is a great story, but there have been plenty of them. Young Australian Jack Doohan, who is the second most winning driver in this championship over the 4 previous seasons. 10 victories for him between High Tech and Pinnacle. Ukyo Sasahara, the Japanese driver who won the championship in 2019 season, started in late 19 and extended through to early 2020. He has been credited with 11 victories and drove very, very well in that period. Now we're waiting for the circuit just to be ready for the drivers. 30 minutes race duration. Standing start, of course. Standard procedure. 5.28 kilometres, 16 turns. That's different for them from the previous season. Weather is pretty nice actually. Intermittent cloud, 18 degrees, 60% humidity, about 64%. Wind from the northwest, about 20 kilometres an hour, gusting up to about 30. So you can see the flags left of screen moving around quite a bit. So that'll have a little bit of an impact, but certainly as the bulk of the team members leave the grid to get the drivers ready to go, we will see things start to fire up. Left of screen, Sebastian Montoya, who took that fantastic pole position yesterday. If you look at the time splits, it was pretty impressive. Montoya's 1:51.8, not the fastest they've been over the last couple of days. Of course, they've had a couple of days of testing prior to official practice yesterday in the 2 qualifying sessions. They were down into the 51.2s. But Montoya's pole time was a 51.849. Jack Crawford, the American, alongside the Abu Dhabi Racing by Prema entry, 37 1,000th of a second slower, and then 62 1,000th of a second from pole position was Isaac Hadjar for High Tech Grand Prix. His teammate Gabriel Mini, who topped the second session, was in position number 4. The 4 top drivers who start positions 1 through 4 in this race separated by just 12 100ths of a second, so it was close. In fact, the top 13 entries down to Freddie Lubin, and we could include the Englishman in that 1 second bracket. 1.032 seconds separating the top 13 entries. Further down, in fact, back to Khalid Al-Khabaisi. His 1:55.0 puts him second in the Masters category. Sally Yelich was position number 24, so he led the field. And Thomas Liudi, who we were alluding to a little bit earlier, is a returnee in this championship. He's been out of the race seat for a couple of years. He's done a little bit of testing, the Hong Kong-based driver. He's been a regular part, the Swiss driver, of this championship over recent years. Loves his open wheelers, spends a lot of time, obviously, Hong Kong-based, the Swiss driver now, in Asia, and has been a regular part of it. It's had some fairly tough seasons in past years with failures and on the tail end of other people's incidents, but certainly has been a mainstay in this championship and loves being here back behind the wheel of one of these TARDIS F3 cars. Grid's being prepared to circulate, maybe a couple of dramas at the tail end of the field. So it was Montoya, Crawford, Isaac Hadjar, Gabriel Mini as your top 4. Arthur Leclerc managed to put himself into position 5. He'd been hovering around that position through testing and practice. We go back to position number 6. Dino Begonovic, he running also for the Mumbai Falcons Racing Limited team, so that's 3 of their entries inside the top 6. Adrian David, the Frenchman, in position number 7. Paul Aram in position 8. Brendo Flusha in position 9. Gabriel Bortolotto for 3Y by R Ace GP alongside his teammate Flusha. They make up the top 10. Pepe Marti, Pinnacle Motorsport, position 11. Jen Bullock-Basey, we've seen him, of course, in this championship before. Very successful e-racing driver. Has transferred those skills into GTs and open wheelers. Freddie Lubin, position 13. Oliver Goethe in position number 14 for the 3Y R-Race GP team. Then Nicola Marinangeli, I apologise, for Evans GP in position 15. Leonardo Fornaroli for High Tech in position 16. Hamda Alkabasi, the first of the two Alkabasi sisters, of course both driving with their father Khalid. She's in position number 17, of course very experienced here in the Abu Dhabi, racing by Premier Entry. Joshua Dufek for High Tech GP in position number 18. We go back further then to Levant Erevis. He is in position number 19 for Evans GP Academy. Yato Iwasaki for Pinnacle Motorsport, driver from the Philippines. Amna Alkabasi, position number 21 in the number 99 Abu Dhabi, racing by Premier Entry. David Morales for Evans GP. Bryce Morabito for Black Arts Racing. And Sali Ulich. We're just talking about the first of the Masters drivers, Khalid Alkabasi and Thomas Nudi, who rounds out this field. So 26 entries for this first round of the 2020 Formula Regional Asian Championship. Drivers out there just circulating, trying to get some heat into their GT tyres. Of course, the GT Compete GTR1 tyres, they've got 3 sets of dry weather slicks, very hard wearing tyre. That is a mainstay of this championship, and it's a mainstay of the reason why F3 and the Formula Regional Championships are so important to driver development. A tyre that's super sticky, like we might see in Formula 1 and some of the other open wheel Formula, the more senior categories, it's not really forcing the driver to have to work a little bit harder. So there's all sorts of things they have to take into account when they jump into these drivers. And there's a couple of drivers in the field that are making their single-seater debut this weekend. So lots to work out, certainly some drivers with some very big experience. As we say, 2/3 of the field are between 16 and 17. You might think that that's quite young, but in all reality, a lot of these drivers have been in go-karts from as young as 4 or 6, so they've got a large pool of experience behind them. So left of field, Sebastian Montoya. The Red Bull colours are Jack Crawford on right off screen. Pole sitter on the left, Sebastian Montoya. Jack Crawford alongside. They'll line up, lights will go out, and we will be underway with the opening round of what will be a very, very exciting Formula Regional Asian Championship. Revs are starting to rise, waiting for the lights. Given the all clear at rear of field, looks like everybody's good to go. And we will be underway. Lights out here at Yas Marina, and we are underway with the opening round. Jack Crawford stalled off position number 2 on the front row of the grid. Let's hope the field gets past. It looks like they have. Sebastian Montoya's held the lead into turn number 1. That is absolute disaster for Jack Crawford. Not the way he wanted to start this championship. Very, very frustrating. He can work his way back into this field, but as we fire down through turns 3 and 4, down towards the hairpin, it's Sebastian Montoya who's made the most of his pole position start to lead this field away. What disappointment for the American driver. Not the way you want to start it. Locked wheels early in the piece. They were talking about the tyres. They are a very, very hard compound. We saw in qualifying, it took as many as 5 to 6 laps to get these tyres up to temperature. So the drivers want to be very careful they don't take too many edges off them to start this race. We'll get an update as we get down to the first sector. We're through that. We're down to turn 6. Very tight part of the circuit. We saw some fantastic Formula 1 action here at the close of the 2021 season, and I'm sure we're going to see all sorts of things too from these young drivers as they find position. Very busy middle of the pack as they run down to turn 8 and down to their hairpin at turn 9, squeezing. Lots of racecraft being shown here at Yes, Marina, more locked brakes. Again, another thing they need to be careful of. But these are the sorts of things they need to know. These are the sorts of things that teams want them to learn. This is the opening race of 15. But one thing championships have shown us in past years is it's very, very much about consistency. You don't want to DNF. You want to get this through. You want to make sure you record championship points. It's tight at the top of these championships. It always is, but only rewards the top 10. That's where we need to be. Qualifying positions for race 2, of course, are set by the top 10 of this race. So that too is important. Now we want to see whether or not Jack Crawford's been able to get going. No, he hasn't. So it's Isaac Hadjar, the other of the Red Bull young drivers, in position number 2. Gabriel Mini up from position 4 to position 3. Now, it looks like Jack Crawford's got going. Where is he on track? It's a little bit difficult to see at the moment. He's down towards the rear of field. Car number 52, working his way back through. So he's got past car 21. So has there been dramas for Bryce Morabito? Turns out there may well have been, because he is very slowly circulating. He's just gone around turn 3. He's down towards turn 5 now as the screen is updated. At the front of the field, it's still Montoya. The gap at the front, just 0.4 of a second over Isaac Hadjar. He is a bit of a superstar, the young man, and we'll be interested to see how the French driver goes. There's certainly been a lot of people picture him, or point to him as one of the future stars of open wheel racing as he works through into the senior formula. So it'll be a very big test for him this weekend. So whilst we're talking about them pushing hard, you see the locked wheels, you can see just how close these drivers are. The team bosses will also have instilled into all of these drivers, you need to finish these races. You may need to make smart decisions. You need to get to the end. You really need to be in the top 10 and bag championship points. 3 wide into the corners, probably not looking too strong with respect to trying to get yourself some valuable championship points. But these drivers are young. They've got a lot to learn, and they really are pushing very, very hard. Purple sector for Isaac Hadjar into sector number 2 this time round. So he is really pushing hard. That's car number 5. We're a little bit further back down the order. That's Leonardo Fornaroli for High Tech GP. They're fighting over position 12. Interesting to see what it's like at the front of the field and just how close Isaac Hadjar is getting to Sebastian Montoya. Hadjar's been right in the mix with the top 3 or 4 drivers through testing here at Yas Marina and into practice and, of course, qualifying. He qualified near the front of the field. Montoya, by contrast, who'd never been here before, struggled through testing. He was well down the order in the mid to high teens. In fact, in the 3rd test session, didn't even record a result. Finished roughly midfield at about 12 or 13 in the first official practice session yesterday prior to qualifying, and put in an absolute blinder during the qualifying session. And what was interesting was how many drivers got themselves caught up with being in a pack. It was drivers like Mini, it was drivers like Sebastian Montoya that released themselves from the pack and just focused on getting their apexes. In fact, we'll get to that in a second. That certainly cost Sebastian Montoya. As we look back towards the front of the field, it cost Sebastian Montoya a position on the front row of the grid for the start of the 3rd race. The 2nd qualifying session, he went too deep into one of the corners, cut an apex on the exit, and that locked him out of qualifying. So he was officially recorded as 2nd, but there was a large number of drivers. I could go through the list, but it's probably 40% of the field were given post-session penalties and dropped them from their fastest time. Montoya was one of those. He will start further back down the order. But he showed again that he had the pace to be able to push the car. He pulled an absolute blinder in the end. Oh, and again, that's a perfect example and highlights just what these curves are like. That was all 4 wheels off the ground, and that's not what you want to be doing in one of these open wheel cars. That was the 74 entry of, well, he's got a bit of experience in these cars, Chembolo Bassi, as he struggled to hang on to it. Back in position number 7. He may well have held on to it there, but the curbs here are quite dramatic. You want to stay off them. They've got the sausage curbs, which we saw during the Formula 1 sessions late last year, but they've also got bollards in on the outsides of the corners and on the insides, sorry, the outsides of the corners. They've got them on the apexes, on the insides of the corners. So if you go too far over the curb, you may well clip one of those bollards. Now, whilst they're plastic, that's fine, but what damage does it do to your aero? The last thing you need to be doing is banging wheels in an aero car, because we all know what that means, and certainly with some long straights like the one they're on now between turns 5 and turn 6 can have a big impact on your race. So we've got 3 laps in the books, It's Sebastian Montoya, Isaac Hadjar. You can see the details left of screen. Gabriel Mini is just a second behind the race leader. Arthur Leclerc in position 4. Dino Begonovic is in position number 5. Paul Aron, 6. Adrian David in position 7. Cem Bulgbasi, he has dropped a position. He was 6th, back to 7th as a result of running wide and off that curb. He's in position number 8 now. Pepe Marti in position 9. Lorenzo Flusha up to position number 10. And Freddie Lubin, Oliver Gota and Leonardo Fornaroli are positions 1 through 13. And we're looking at, it's about 10 seconds, in fact, back to Nicola Marangelli, who is in position number 14. It's 10 seconds off the race leader. Back on the screen, look at this great battle at the front of the field. Oh, that's not what we want to see either. That is fairly heavy contact, and we don't want to see that either. Is an errant wheel bouncing on the circuit, so thank goodness the drivers have got through that one safely. That could well be safety car. We will certainly need to retrieve a car, but a loose wheel on circuit, we just need to see it drop on its rim. Let's go back to the replay, see if we can pick up what's happened here. Yeah, contact a little bit further back. Let's see who's dropping back down the order and work out exactly which car that is, being the first round of the championship. Without a lot of detail prior to the race, especially no vision from qualifying. It's a little bit hard to actually acclimatise yourself with all the entries at the moment, but we'll get on top of that. Safety car is out. There's perhaps no surprise there. They'll need to recover that car, and they'll do that fairly quickly. Fortunately, the other drivers got through without that wheel interfering with contact. So it's Montoya, Hadjar, Gabriel Mini in position 3, Arthur Leclerc position 4, Dino Begonovic in position number 5, Paul Aron, Hadrian David, Cem Bulgbasi, Pepe Marti, Lorenzo Flusha, Frederick Lubin, Leonardo Fornaroli. Then we go further back to work on my pronunciations to make sure they're all right too, but we have been talking to the drivers on those, so you might be questioning we're talking about Arthur Leclerc. That is what Arthur likes to be called. He is currently hanging on to position number 4, the younger brother, of course, of Charles Leclerc. So I can mix it up a little bit. Now we've gotten all the way down to Levent Erevis, who's in position number 13. Joshua Dufek in position 14. Hamda Al-Khabaisi is doing a great job back in position number 15 ahead of David Morales. Amna Al-Khabaisi, who's moved herself up to 17th. Liado Osaki, Gabriel Bortoletto. Jack Crawford is back into position number 17 now. What's his time like? He's been in traffic. His best though, 151. Sorry, I'll start that again. At 153.128. Compare that to the race leader, Sebastian Montoya. His best at 153.139. Isaac Hadjar, a 153.135. That shows you just how close the top drivers are. Fastest time at the moment, though, looks like it's been set by Paul Aron. No, he's at 153 dead. 152.481 for Hadrian David. That's impressive. 152.605 for Gabriel Mini. And he really has been right in the mix most of the week that we have been here running at Yas Marina. Let's see what we can find. Just under 20 minutes to go in this race, so effectively 2/3 are in the books. We're on lap 5. We are behind the safety car. Interesting to see. So Nicola Marangelli has hit the pits. The Evans GP entry, car number 14. So we were talking about him a little bit earlier. So he was a little bit further up the run. It could have been Oliver Goethe in the 3Y R-Race, 3Y by R-Race GP entry. He's now shown in position number 26. Ross Morabito, he is further back. We saw him dropping down earlier. So Marangelli is now down to position number 25, and given that Oliver Goethe is not shown on the circuit, one car missing, I'll just check the further details we've got here. It's car number 15, so that would suggest that's the car that's lost a wheel and wound up in the barrier. So disappointing start for him. Back to qualifying positions as to where he started this session. Oliver Gerser was in position number 14, qualified 1.13 seconds off pole. So disappointing for the driver from Monaco. Just 17 years of age. Tough run for him during this opening race. Of course, we've got another 2 races this weekend. Make sure you join us. Race 2 tomorrow, similar time, 10:50 AM local time in the UAE. Add 4 hours to Greenwich Mean Time. That'll bring you up to speed. Race 3 will be not quite 4 hours later, 2:35 PM. So certainly drivers don't want to get themselves into a position where the team's having to do big work on the entry in order to get the car going. There you have it, Sebastian Montoya. His father's here, been doing a bit of martial arts training in the pits beforehand. Of course, talk of Juan Pablo going back to the Indy 500 this year. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people looking forward to that. Sebastian really has done a fantastic job, certainly for a driver who hasn't seen this circuit before, and there's a number of them, let's be honest. The Alcobaces, of course, this is effectively their backyard, so they've done plenty of miles. A number of drivers have also mixed up the UAE F4 Championship with the Italian F4 Championship, so some of these drivers certainly are aware of what their rivals are like. They've competed on the same piece of turf across the last couple of seasons. And that will give them a bit more of an idea. So the fact there's only been 1 contact so far is promising. It's also like that during qualifying, so drivers are still getting the hang of the tyres and the conditions. Track temperature will be low 20s you'd expect, low to mid 20s. The wind looks to have eased a little bit, talking about 20 kilometres per hour, and ambient temperature around 18, 19 degrees. Certainly the sun's out now, so that'll have a little bit more of an impact. Lights still on the safety car. Getting down to half race distance, so certainly this wasn't the start the drivers wanted to have, but I guess it's inevitable, certainly when you've got drivers this age and this experience. We're just talking about some of them having had seasons of experience in the lower formula together. Some of them, of course, have been into the F3 European Championship, or the F3 Championship that supports the Formula 1 and Formula 2. In the past, we've seen drivers come out of Formula 2. Zhou Guanyu last year was a part of the championship. He wasn't alone. And the fact that he was able to compete so strongly last year, what was a championship that was very, very close in the end. You go back to what the championship points were, in fact, 257 points to Guanyu, who only took 4 wins, but made 11 podium finishes, of course, including those 4 wins. Pierre-Louis Chevet, he took 6 wins, so that was a season high, but only made the podium 1 more time. So he's on the podium 7 times, including his wins. Both of them were always in the top 5. It was that close. Both of them suffered a retirement, but in the end, you heard pre-show, he was well down coming into the final round of the championship here at Yas Marina, but he took the victory. Now, what's going on here? A little bit of gamesmanship? Or is Montoya just being given the hurry up? Because this looks like a restart. Safety car's gone, getting ready to go back to action. That's just what we want to see. They're back on the throttle. Montoya's controlling the field, and it looks like he's back underway. Hadjar was trying to just poke the nose down the inside to let him know he was there. We've seen how this works in Formula 1. And certainly, Sebastian Montoya, as he crossed the line, 6/10 up on Hadjar, so he's made use of that. That was very nicely done. Mini 2 just trying to tuck in under the rear wing of Hadjar, the 2 high-tech Grand Prix drivers, making sure they stay with Montoya and they don't let the Colombian driver get away. Of course, based in Miami these days with his dad, has been doing an impressive job this weekend. Down the inside by Mini, because he's not going to get through there. He's got to be careful too, might want to stick the nose up the inside, but he's done that quite nicely. Just shown the nose cone to Isaac Hadjard. Let him know he's there. No doubt pressuring his teammate to say, all right, Isaac, if you're going to make a move, you want to do it soon. No, into the slipstream too. And he's got down the inside. No, he hasn't. It's on the outside. This is getting very interesting. Hadjard maintains second, but on the cut through, it's going to be tight. He's had to go wide. No other choice, but now we're 3 wide for position number 2. This has really opened up. Leclerc's in the fight now. It's really interesting here at the front of the field. What this has done is allowed Montoya to get away, and he's taking that advantage. Top 5. Prima supported cars, certainly 4 in the top 6. And High-Tech Grand Prix, they were the winningest team in this championship over the last 4 seasons, holding down positions number 3 and number 4. Pepe Marti up to position number 7. So there's been a couple go backwards. Levent Erevis, he is back now to position number 16. So he's dropped a position, the Evans GP Academy driver, as this battle towards the front continues to rage on. It's fantastic. That looked like position number 8 further back. No, it's not. Trying to get the car numbers and car liveries sorted as we go 3 wide. That could be very interesting as we run down to turn number 9. No, we're not. We're further back. This is electric racing. Just what we want to see. A 153.001 last time round for Sebastian Montoya. So he's really kept the heat in those GT tyres, and he's put that to good use. The lead now 1.76 seconds still. 1.67. It's dropped back to Arthur Leclerc. So Leclerc's starting to push forward. Gabriel Mini now, though, has dropped back. No, it certainly doesn't look like it in that image. And he's 2/10 back, 3/10 back as they cross the line. Hadjar still in the mix, 8/10 further back, 1.5 back to Begonovic, who's got Pepe Marti now right behind him. Paul Aaron's just lost a position, so it's a good fight back for position number 5. Begonovic, Marti, Aaron and Lorenzo Flusha has moved up. Freddie Lubin's up to position 9. Of course, he qualified in position number 13. So the young Englishman racing for Evans GP is moving forward. But there is your leader. Mumbai Falcons racing 1-2. David Morales has dropped a position. Jack Crawford now up to position number 14. He really is pushing very, very hard. Lap times into the 52s. 52.8 for Leclerc. Just closed down that lead on Montoya. We'll look at go up to Jack Crawford. 54.1 last time round. That is his best so far. So he's embroiled in traffic. Is this battle for what would be position number 3 or 2? Now that looks like Gabriel Mini's managed to make his way through. He has too. Sorry, watching the scoring monitor. There's all the actions going on track. You can't look away. You've got to know where to look in this this race. These young guys really are pushing very, very hard. The Masters race, that's raging further back. Khalid El Kabaisi is in position number 19. He's holding the lead. At the moment, Salih Ulich is not too far behind him. The pair are separated by half a second, so that's for the lead further back. Thomas Liudi is about a bit over a second behind as we got another driver in the wall. This will be yellow flag. Is it going to be local yellow? We're going to go safety car again. Keep an eye on the scoring monitor. 8 minutes to go in this race. It may just be that section of the circuit. Work out exactly where that was. That may have been down 9. There's no doubt if I've got that wrong. Plenty of people will let me know. Doesn't seem to have slowed things down up front. Montoya lead now by 2.3 seconds, and there it is. Safety car just come up on the timing screen. You'll see that on your live streaming monitors fairly shortly, I'd imagine. Yeah, on cue. That's the 23 entry. Pepe Marti, who was battling there just on the top 10. Now Paul Aram's dropped back down too. The two of them are in the tail end of the top 10. So there's been contact, unfortunately for them. We may well see a replay. And that's really made things frustrating for Montoya. He's done such a good job. To look at it going into qualifying, you could argue that perhaps outside of what you'd expect to be a fair natural ability, that he may not have been tipped to go pole. Perhaps tail end of the top 10, judging on his testing and practice pace. But he absolutely pulled a blinder in that first qualifying session to go P1. And you can see that there's plenty of racecraft in the young American-based Colombian. Certainly he's got a wealth of information to draw on back in the pits. His father, Juan Pablo Montoya, one of South America's most successful drivers. He's never made the world title in F1, but certainly was one of the most flamboyant drivers during his period in Formula One, but a very measured drive so far from Sebastian to eke out a lead of just on 2 seconds as the drivers behind him started to fight. Gabriel Mini is certainly going to be a very big threat. He has been impressive since we started here midweek with testing. Former Italian F4 champion, just 16 years of age. He has really shown that he will be a contender. Of course, set pole position in the second qualifying session. Jack Crawford again was right in that Jack can get off the line okay in the second race. That'll come to us in 24 hours time, so make sure you join us for that one, because this championship, I think you can tell from what we've seen so far, is only going to get more intense as we run through. Some great names: Montoya, Mini, Leclerc, Hadjar, Begonovic, Flusha, Lubin, Fornaroli, Dufek, Borletto. They are your top 10. With just under 5 minutes to go. So the frustration, of course, for Montoya, who managed to do a great job to keep tyre temperature in those GT slicks last time round. He'd done a great job of getting ahead of Isaac Hadjar coming to the line. Hadjar, as you saw just prior to the start, so that's down at turn 1. I need to just double check. No, turn 9, I beg your pardon. It's down at turn 9 where that incident has taken place. It's eliminated Oliver Goethe, unfortunately for him. That is game over. But for Montoya, he might have it all left to do. Is it something about this circuit and last lap restarts, or is that something I best ignore based on the controversy late last year that settled a Formula One world title? We'll see that in the final round of 15, or the final race of 15 in the 5th round of the championship, when we're back here in 5 weeks' time. This is certainly looking like we may finish this under safety car, which is not the ideal scenario, but that car looks like it's still buried in the wall. Let's see what happens when we get back down to turn 9 this time around, as to whether or not that is likely. We go back from position number 10, and Jack Crawford's up to 11th, which is very, very impressive. He's got his best down to a 53.1, so he's certainly on the pace of the leaders, but embroiled further back there in traffic. So Gabriel Borletto and Joshua Dufek are going to have to be on their A game if we do make a restart, because he'll be all over the back of them. Hamda Al-Khabaisi in position number 12. What a great job she's done. Teammate to Jack Crawford in the Abu Dhabi Racing by Prema entry. Levento Arrives in position number 13 for Evans GP, and Al Kabasi up to position number 14. So the two sisters doing a fantastic job. Yato Iwasaki, Philippines driver, in position number 15. Khaled Al Kabasi makes it. Al Kabasi's in 12, 14 and 16. He still has the lead of the Masters category. Sali Jilic is immediately behind in position 17. Bryce Morabito, Thomas Ludi's Black Arts Racing teammate, is separating Jilic from Ludi. It's positions 2 and 3 in Masters. David Morales is shown in pit lane. So one wonders whether or not he's been caught up in some of those incidences. Certainly he was on track position-wise somewhere near Pepe Marti and Paul Aron, and they may well have been caught up in that incident with Marty in the barriers. It was the 23, sorry. Goethe was the earlier incident. Just over a minute to go. Safety car board, lights flashing. Let's see whether or not I'm getting any information on any of my boards as to what may be the position. But the way things are going at the moment, as the field crosses the line one more time to put 13 laps in the books, it's looking like the clock's going to wind down, and we may well finish this race under safety car. Not the ideal scenario, but for Sebastian Montoya, you'd have to argue that he's done just about everything right. Jack Crawford, dramas off the start, forced a rear field by virtue of the fact that it appears the car stalled on the grid, and he's worked his way back to 11th, which is very, very impressive. That left Montoya free out front. He got a nice early lead. He was hampered by Isaac Hadjar early, and Gabriel Mini and Arthur Leclerc and Dino Begonovic managed to put their toe into the battle for position number 2. That mixed things up a little bit. Hadjar was forced wide. They went 3 wide, which really gave the young Frenchman very little room to move. That opened the door. Leclerc would ultimately move through into second, but not too long before this second safety car intervention, Gabriel Mini, the young Italian, moved his way back into position number 2 and was setting off in pursuit of the race leader, Sebastian Montoya. By that stage, it built up a lead of just over 2 seconds, then back under safety car, which is the position we are in right now. Looks like that's the way we are going to finish this race. Lights are off on the safety car. We certainly have gone 30 minutes, and I don't think you could argue that a finishing result of Montoya, Mini and Leclerc, based on lap times from qualifying, and certainly based on the pace yesterday of those drivers and certainly the teams. Got a team backed by Prema and a team backed by High-Tech Grand Prix, or 2 teams rather, backed by Prema. And 1 team backed by High-Tech, that we certainly have the cream rising to the top, and that certainly isn't to play down the performances, certainly of Isaac Hadjar and a number of the drivers immediately behind him. It's a stellar field. Checkered flags now up on the finishing results, and that will be it. Across the line, that's the way the result will be settled. Sebastian Montoya converts pole position into a race win, leading from start to finish. Did everything right. And for the Mumbai Falcons Racing Limited team, who have a great association with the Prema Power team, that is first victory for season 2022. Great job too by Gabriel Mini to work his way up. Qualified, well, he didn't take pole position. Certainly he was running very, very strongly during the qualifying session, but Isaac Hadjar and Jack Crawford managed to squeeze their way through and finish second and third in qualifying. But for Mini to recover and in that great battle over position 2, emerge ultimately in position 3 behind Arthur Leclerc, and then move his way into position 2 before the safety car intervention. That classifies him in position number 2, and a solid result then in the end. So there it is. Sebastian Montoya for Mumbai Falcons Racing Limited takes the first win of the opening round of the Formula Regional Asian Championship, certified by FIA. Gabriel Mini position 2, Arthur Leclerc, Isaac Hadjar, Dino Begonovic, Lorenzo Flusha, Freddie Lubin, a great job from 13th up to 7, and Leonardo Fornaroli in the high-tech Grand Prix entry. Number 5 in position number 8. Position number 9 for Josh Dufek for high-tech Grand Prix. Gabriel Bortolito in position number 10 for 3Y by R-Ace GP. Position number 11 for Jack Crawford, who recovered after that tough start to the race. Qualified P2, dropped to rear of field, forced his way back through the field. His teammate, Hamda Al-Khabaisi, in position number 12. Levanta Araves in position number 13 for Evans GP Academy. Position number 14 for Amna Al-Khabaisi. Ayato Iwasaki, Khaled Al-Khabaisi. And position number 17. So, of course, Khaled Al-Khabaisi will take the Masters victory. Sally Ulich will be in position number 2 for Pinnacle Motorsport and second in Masters, of course. Bryce Morabito hangs on to position number 18 ahead of his Black Arts Racing teammate Thomas Ludi, who finishes in position number 19 as the last driver to take the flag, and position number 3 in the Masters Championship. So what an epic way to start the new season. Again, 24 hours time, or now under 24 hours time, 10:50 a.m. UAE local time tomorrow. Race 2, the second of the 30-minute races for the opening round of the 2022 season. Then race 3 at 2:35 p.m. local time. That's Greenwich Mean Time plus 4 hours, so you can work that back from where you are in the world watching this fantastic championship. It's great to see some top flight open wheel motorsport back on our screens, as we've been left a little empty after the close of the F1 season. All the drama go into a quiet Christmas and New Year. It's fantastic to be back for the first of 15 races for these young drivers that are going to be the future of open wheel racing in the not too distant future. Already we saw the driver who took the championship just 12 short months ago, Guanyu Zhou, will line up on the Formula 1 grid for Alfa Romeo this year, and that is fantastic news. Not just fantastic news for this championship, also fantastic news for China to have a Formula 1 driver in Formula 1. We're off to Dubai next weekend, of course, for races number 4 to 6 on the GP circuit to kick off the 5.39 kilometre circuit. Just a week later on the international circuit, the shorter 4.29 kilometre layout. Back to the GP circuit the following week, 11th to the 13th of February at Dubai, and then right back here at Yas Marina circuit, 17th to the 20th of February. So there's 5 weekends you can lock aside to watch some of the best open wheel racing action you will ever see amongst some of the greatest young talents to get behind the wheel of an open wheel Formula car. Let's take a quick look back at the way this race played out. Off the line, look right of screen, Jack Crawford seemed to just crawl and stop. So something went on there for the young American driver. Then it got very racy in the opening laps. You can see those bollards on the inside of the corners. The drivers are steering well clear of those. Some good action further back down the track. Then dramas for Oliver Goethe, and that brought out the safety car for the first safety car intervention. That loose wheel wasn't great to see, recovered by this fantastic crew of officials supporting. We missed this on the racing, and then ultimately that was Pepe Marti who came off from the circuit, and then ultimately we finished under safety car. So there you have the opening race of the 2020 season. Make sure you join us again tomorrow in just under 24 hours time for race 2 of the Formula Regional Asian Championship, presented certified rather by FIA.